Bravo. Oh, that was very, very good, Vivian. How long have you been playing the violin?
Well, I mean, not yet 6 years, but technically 6 years since I started at 4 and not even half, like 4.
Okay, okay. Technically not 6 years. Well, you have a lot of technique. Technically, you have a lot of technique. Okay, let's work on a couple of things. What do you most like about this piece?
Maybe like the chords, like how they sound and where they're placed.
the big chords, and you play them really very well in tune. How about the opening? Do you like the opening?
Yes, but I'm pretty much used to like a forte or a mezzo forte beginning, and I'm not used to piano beginning.
I know, and it's a little hard to tell on Zoom. You know, kind of levels it out a little bit. But I was wondering if we could just pick a couple of, we'll pick a couple of different things to work on. Let's work on the opening first. And tell me a word you want to describe it. What kind of a word can you think of?
Maybe muted, like it's soft, muted.
Oh, muted. But do you think it's beautiful?
Yes, I do think it's beautiful.
Good, good. And do you think maybe it's telling you some kind of a story? Is something going on there? Like maybe you're telling a secret to the girl who sits next to you in class, except right now you can't tell a secret to the girl next to you, right? You have to tell it really loud over Zoom. So it's soft and it has some meaning to it. And I want to suggest one thing. You have a very good vibrato.
Thank you.
Do you use it all the time?
It depends what depends what kind of piece it is.
You use it all the time in the beginning of this piece?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Yes. And so I'm wondering if you can try to, you make the long notes very beautiful. I'm wondering if you could make the eighth notes as beautiful as the dotted quarters. Could we start it once more? Do you know what the word passing tone means? Like a passing tone is like getting from one note to the other. For example, at the end on the first line, those are passing tones. They're kind of walking along to the next place, right?
Yes.
And I think sometimes you don't think those passing tones are as beautiful as the other notes. And I'm wondering if this is a very special little place, little intimate place. I'm wondering if you can make those a little more beautiful. Let's start at once. And not by making it louder, almost by making it softer, but by listening to what kind of a sound you get with your vibrato. And if you weren't vibrating, what would make the beautiful sound? Actually, what makes the sound all the time? It's this guy, right? Yeah, it's this guy. So maybe once in a while you just go, oh, I don't think that's so important. And it doesn't get any care, you know, and you want to say, you want to play both with your right hand and your left hand, thinking about the beautiful sound. Let's start at once. I want to ask you a question, and that is, which notes are more important, these two or this one? What do you call these? They're the uppy, aren't they?
Yes.
Do you use that word? Okay. So do you think the downbeat maybe should be more beautiful than the upbeat? Or at least it should show that it's going there, right? Upbeat. And then like, oh, open it up and sing. Let's try it. So the upbeat could be a little more gentle.
Okay.
Right. And that's the end of what right there? Hey, yada, dee. Do you know what that is?
Beginning?
That's the end of the first phrase.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So that's like the end of the sentence. Right? So I think you told me something very beautiful in that sentence. Now, I wonder about you play are you in third position there, Vivian?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So is A a really important note?
I think so because I mean you have to shift into it.
Oh, that is a very good answer. And just because you shift into it, does that mean it's loud? I'm just wondering what kind of vibrato you want to use on that long A. Because you were like, wow, I like my second finger. You were really going for it. So I'm not sure. It could be both ways. Look what happens if you go for it. Then you have to make a crescendo before. Well, I'm not so sure that's what it is. I think the person's walking down the street and is walking a little slower there. So then you could start moving again because you have a crescendo the next bar. And if you play that A too loud, you can't go any farther. So let's see if you can keep that. Let's just do it once more. The opening, keep it soft, and think about the fact that it has a little rest there. It rests just a little bit in the sound, and then it goes ahead and gets bigger. Here we go, once more. Oh, I think that was beautiful. I think that was beautiful. And so your vibrato, when you go over to the E string, you can really make it quicker, which you do. You're very good. I saw you practicing your vibrato on your violin here. Is that what you do?
Here?
Yeah, you were like warming up here. Do you do that?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah, you've got good loose fingers. Do you go back and forth on your knuckle?
I'm not sure, but
Yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, you do. You have loose knuckles, Vivian, and that is good. Okay. The first page was really very good and is not as difficult as some of the things, but what happens at measure 47?
it's like a different story almost.
You got it. It is exactly like a different story. And what is this one about?
Maybe like he's walking very slowly, or he is walking very slowly, and then it goes to someplace fun, and then he starts jumping around or something.
Yeah, and maybe he gets an idea like boom, 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 da-dum, dum, da-da. Somebody's kind of proud of what's going on. Let's try that. So, do you have a good separate bow stroke? Do you kind of, or do you play it smooth? Has an accent on it.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure I do the accent.
Yeah, I think you should try it. Okay, that's really quite good. Do you count? Do you count while you play?
No.
No. Do you think it's a good idea once in a while to count while you play?
I do sometimes count when I play, but not.
And you know what happens sometimes when you don't count because it looks easy, that's where it's not as careful as it could be. So this is very strict. Bum, bing, yum, da-dum, and yum, da-dum, bum, ba-dum, ba-da, ba-da. Don't run, don't rush. Try it once more and count in your head while you're playing. Yeah, so when you see the fast notes, be sure you don't take off, okay? Alrighty, good. So this piece has a lot of character, has a lot of different ideas in it. I think it's a very good piece for you, and you play it extremely well. Let's look at some of the other tough spots, okay?
Okay.
How about measure 70? Oh, I wanted to hear measure 68. Maybe you could get into that. Why don't you start, can you start the pickup to measure 64? Yum, da-dee, yum, ba-da. And a big crescendo, and then try to keep those 16th notes going at exactly the same tempo so that you sound like a real virtuoso. You slow down just a little bit. Now, I don't want to be too hard on you because you do a very good job, but I'm wondering if you can do that once more and make sure. You should make it sound like, oh, that's easy. No problem at all for Vivian. Once more. Keep going. That's very good. You know, I miss a little bit the real tough one. It could be the Zoom, but I don't hear this really well. That's very difficult, right? Right. So be sure you get your arm up there, right? You've got a good, do you cross the string with your wrist? Do you think about the wrist being loose?
Somehow mostly fingers?
What?
I think it's mostly fingers.
Oh, you do it with your fingers. Okay, let's hear it one last time, and I want to make sure I hear that bottom G. Yep, that's very good. Is there a spot that you want to play? Because we have a few more minutes, and I want to make sure we cover what you would especially like to do.
I mean, my favorite's probably the ending, but I don't think there's much problem because I practiced.
Good for you. How about the Allegro molto at 156?
That's my favorite part. Starting
It is? Okay, let's try that spot. That's excellent. You know, you see that there's a dot on some of those eighth notes? At the beginning of the allegro, dot, dot. So it's not connected. Okay, it goes. Do you know the dot means that the end of the note has a space before the next note? Play it for me once. That's right. It has like a little lift off, but not, you don't really lift your bow. You just release your bow a little. Once more. Okay. Okay, so how about, could you make those notes a little more beautiful? You were just aiming for the next bar. You couldn't wait to get to the triplets, and you forgot to pay attention to those eighths. Yeah. Yeah, and as a matter of fact, it could be, you could almost go, and then take off. Let's try that. Okay. Do you notice that there's a diminuendo that actually goes all the way to piano? You want to start it soft, because then you'll have a longer way to get to that big finale, okay?
Wait.
You have to be careful that it doesn't sound like, it should be, it should start really, like start super, super soft. See if you can, which might mean don't use so much bow at the very beginning. Then you could use more and more. That scale's very good at the end. The other thing I would say is when you play these chords, can you put a little vibrato on those? Sometimes you go, wah, la, 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 la. They go like, who is that? And you know what? The first one doesn't have any accidentals. Do you hear? It's in the key. But the second one has. Whoa, which one is more interesting?
I would say probably the one with accidentals.
You say what?
Probably the one with
the accident. Yeah. So now could you do that for me? And could you play the first one like you did, which was very good, but you've got to do something a little special because A sharp is kind of interesting in this key. All right. Right. So what could you do to make it more interesting? That was good. What are some of the things you could do?
Maybe apply more pressure on the A string than on the.
Yeah, you could play it a little louder. You could use a little more bow. you could vibrate a little more.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just do last time. How about starting from the piano bar? Okay, and get us all the way to the end. Bravo. Thank you very much for playing. That was excellent, Vivian.
Thank you.